I played against the Miami Bron. You had your moments when you were in Toronto against the Cleveland Bron. When you watch him now, like, how do you see him evolve, or how did he evolve to you?
One, his IQ has just always been what set him apart from, from everything.
Mm-hmm.
The way he read the game, dictate the game, control the game, and it necessarily never have to be with scoring.
Mm-hmm.
I think this Bron is being more of the IQ for everybody than before because, like you said, the Miami Bron, that motherfucker was incredible.
Stop what you're doing and look at this stat. The current top 5 NBA teams are averaging 118 points per game while holding opponents under 105. That's not just good, that's historic. We haven't seen dominance like this since the '96 Bulls era, but numbers only tell half the story. I've identified the exact moment each of these teams transformed from good to great. Some of these plays are so subtle you might have missed them, but they changed everything. Let me show you what really happened. Remember this summer when Celtics fans were losing their minds? Trading Marcus Smart, the heart and soul of their defense, seemed like basketball suicide. Social media lit up with takes like Boston just destroyed their identity, and Kristaps Porzingis is made of glass. Even the experts were shaking their heads, wondering if Brad Stevens had lost his mind. Well, those tweets didn't age well. The Celtics aren't just surviving without Smart, they're thriving. They've built a defensive fortress that's top 3 in the NBA, and it starts with Drew Holiday.
I laugh from all the things that came from that game. Cat's meme is absolutely hilarious. Them live on TV, Cat talking about he shot 1,500 shots a day and they calling him a liar was crazy.
Yeah, he definitely was capped though.
Watch this sequence against the Sixers. Holiday picks up Tyrese Maxey full court, forces him left, then somehow teleports through a screen to block his shot. That's the kind of defense that makes coaches rewind tape 5 times. But the real story here is Derek White. Remember when he was just that solid backup guard from San Antonio? Now he's morphed into this two-way monster who's giving opposing coaches nightmares. Look at this play against the Bucks. White switches onto Giannis, stays perfectly vertical, forces the miss, then sprints out in transition for a corner 3. That's not normal. He's playing like prime Tony Parker with a splash of Bruce Bowen. The Porzingis trade? Pure genius. Everyone was so focused on his injury history they missed the obvious. He's the perfect modern big for this system. He's not just blocking shots at the rim. He's switching onto guards, stepping out to the three-point line, and making teams completely abandon their usual offensive sets.
Just talk about your excitement and what that moment will mean for you when you raise the banner.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to be. I don't know what the ring looks like. I want to just see it in that moment. And so it's definitely going to be a lot of fun and the start of the new year.
Here's the stat that's breaking Basketball Reference. The Celtics' net rating isn't just good. It's the best we've seen since Jordan's 72-win Bulls team. They're not just beating teams, they're dismantling them with surgical precision. And it's happening against the league's best competition. This is why Brian Windhorst put them at number 1, despite all the preseason doubts. They've taken their biggest perceived weakness, trading away their defensive anchor, and turned it into their greatest strength. The Celtics aren't just a good team anymore. They're playing like a force of nature. But if you think Boston's transformation is impressive, wait until you see who's sitting at number 2. Because this next team isn't just exceeding expectations, they're shattering everything we thought we knew about rebuilding in the NBA. You know that feeling when you're watching a pickup game and some random kid starts cooking NBA veterans? That's basically what the Thunder are doing to the entire league right now. Their defensive rating isn't just good, it's championship level good, and nobody saw it coming. Remember that ridiculous shot SGA hit over the Warriors? The one where he somehow twisted through 3 defenders, hung in the air forever, and still got it to fall? That wasn't just a highlight, it was a statement. This Thunder team isn't waiting for permission to take over the league. The preseason predictions had OKC sitting at 11th in the West. Makes sense, right? Young team, still developing, maybe in a year or 2 they'll compete. Except nobody told these guys they were supposed to wait. They're straight up suffocating veteran teams with a defense that's so aggressive it feels personal. Watch how they swarm ball handlers, switch everything, and turn every possession into absolute chaos for opposing offenses. And then there's Chet Holmgren. This rookie is doing things that 7-footers simply aren't supposed to do. He's not just protecting the rim, he's changing how teams attack entirely. Watch what happens when guards see him lurking in the paint. They hesitate, they second guess, they settle for jumpers. That split second of doubt is all this Thunder defense needs. But here's the crazy part. Their bench is just as scary as their starters. When most young teams go to their second unit, there's usually a drop-off. Not with OKC. These young guys are coming in and actually increasing the intensity. They're not just holding leads, they're extending them against veteran second units. Look at their defensive numbers compared to past championship teams. We're talking elite company here, the kind of statistical territory usually reserved for teams with multiple all-defense selections and years of playoff experience. Yet somehow, this group of basketball prodigies is already there. That's why they've landed at number 2 in these rankings. It's not just about potential anymore, they're producing right now. They've built this suffocating defensive system that's giving fits to even the most experienced teams in the league. And the scariest part? Most of their core players can't even rent a car yet. Speaking of experience though, you'd think the defending champions would be right up there with them. But something's different in Denver this year. The Nuggets aren't quite looking like the team that steamrolled through the playoffs last season, and there's a very specific reason why. Even Jokic's incredible triple-double against Phoenix couldn't hide what's happening in Denver. The defending champs are showing classic signs of a championship hangover, but it's not just about tired legs or lost motivation. Their numbers tell a much more concerning story. You've seen Jokic doing Jokic things, right? Making passes that shouldn't be possible, scoring at will, controlling entire games like he's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. But something's off with this Nuggets team, and it's becoming impossible to ignore. Remember how they steamrolled through the playoffs last year? That team looked unstoppable. Every rotation was crisp, every player knew their role, and the machine just kept rolling no matter who they faced. But this year's version? They're losing games they used to win in their sleep, and it starts with their bench. The second unit has fallen off a cliff. It's like watching a completely different team, and not in a good way. The bench scoring has dropped so dramatically that they're forcing the starters to carry an even heavier load than during their championship run. That's not sustainable over an 82-game season, especially when you're trying to defend a title. Then there's Jamal Murray. During the championship run, he was this perfect offensive complement to Jokic, creating this two-man game that no defense could solve. But this season, he's been up and down, searching for that consistent rhythm that made him so deadly in the playoffs. One night, he's the blue arrow we all remember. The next, he's just off. The really concerning part? Their net rating has plummeted from championship levels to just good. Not great, not elite, just good. For a defending champion, that's like a check engine light flashing on your dashboard. Sure, the car's still running, but something's definitely not right under the hood. This isn't the same roster that dominated the league last year. The depth isn't there. The defensive intensity comes and goes, and teams aren't afraid of them anymore. They're still dangerous. Any team with Jokic will be. But that aura of inevitability they had during the playoffs? It's gone. That's why they've landed at number 4 in these rankings. The potential for another championship run is still there, but they'll need to figure out these issues fast. Because while Denver's trying to recapture their magic, there's another superstar carrying his team into the top 5 in ways we've never seen before. Remember when we used to say one player couldn't single-handedly carry a team to the playoffs? Luka Doncic is making us question everything we thought we knew about basketball. The Mavs are winning games they have no business winning, but their defensive numbers tell a story that should terrify Dallas fans. When Luka's on the court, the Mavs actually look decent defensively, posting a 107.5 rating that would rank among the league's better teams. But the moment he steps off, that number plummets to 113.2. And suddenly they're scrambling like a team fighting to stay out of the lottery. It's not just about the offense he creates. His presence somehow holds their entire defensive system together too. But even Luka's brilliance can't mask their fundamental issues. Watch what happened against the Warriors recently. 130 points given up, transition defense falling apart, shooters getting wide open looks. Teams have figured out exactly how to attack Dallas, especially in crucial moments. That's why their clutch numbers are so shocking. A 22.1 net rating in close games, ranking 27th in the league. For context, that's worse than some teams actively trying to tank. Take that Suns game, perfect example of what happens when things get tight. Dallas was right there, then boom. Gave up a 15-0 run in the final minutes. Their defense just disappeared. These aren't random cold stretches either. It's becoming a pattern that's impossible to ignore, especially against elite teams. Here's the really wild part. Luka's usage rate is sitting at 37.5%. For perspective, that's way higher than other superstars like Giannis at 31.8% or KD at 31.5%. He's not just carrying the team, he's dragging them up the mountain while the rest of the roster hangs on for dear life. That's not a game plan, that's a prayer. So why are they still in the top 5? Because when Luka's cooking, he can outscore almost any defensive problem. He's putting up numbers that make statisticians double-check their spreadsheets. But here's the question keeping Mavs fans up at night. How long can one player, even someone as talented as Luka, keep covering up these defensive cracks? Teams are already adjusting, sending double teams earlier, forcing other players to make plays in clutch moments. And when that happens, all those defensive issues suddenly become too big to hide. The Mavs might be winning now, but they're walking a tightrope without a net. And in today's NBA, that's a dangerous way to live. Speaking of dangerous, there's one shocking stat that connects all our top 5 teams, and it might change everything we think about who's really built for a championship run. Here's something wild about these top 5 teams. They're all winning games they're supposed to lose. Every single one has a positive net rating, even in games where the odds are stacked against them. That's not just good basketball, that's championship DNA. But here's the real question that's keeping everyone up at night. Can they keep this up? Because the schedule's about to get brutal for some of these squads. The Celtics have a tough road stretch coming up. The Thunder are facing veteran playoff teams, and the Mavs? They're about to hit the gauntlet of Western Conference contenders. Next week's rankings could look completely different. We might see some familiar faces drop out and some hungry teams climb in. That's what makes this season so special. Nobody's spot is safe, and everyone's got something to prove.